Warning! Graphic pest control video ahead. Do not watch if you might be offended. If, however, you really like watching pest control videos, then hello again and welcome to the Squirrel Hunter channel. Please continue and watch us as we control pest populations with silenced air rifles here in the UK. If you have any questions, can you please check the description below first to see if it's already been answered and for some useful links. Thank you. This episode of the Squirrel Hill saga be Bruv on the trigger of his Daystate Mark IV, launching Barracuda Hunter Extremes 177 caliber, sub 12 foot-pound. You can see middle of May this year. He's got his first squirrel on the feeder. As stated in previous videos, we use these big feeders in areas where we don't visit very often, just to make sure they don't run empty. It's quite a large feeder of bruvs. The volume of squirrels we were expecting, coupled with the distance away from our home, made us plump for the big feeders. This one's having a bit of a mess about on the lid. You can see there's a squirrel feeder in the background. That bin is one of the reasons why Bruv sighted his feeder in this location. Bruv just let the camera run. He's sat in his car. Very often shoots at that here. He's tracking it the whole while. If it sits still, then he shoots them. And that's squirrel one down. Let's briefly see those little black dots with the yellow dots on them. Use that to do some zeroing. Should always check his zero prior to shooting. Squirrel 2 arrives. A lot of bird song. Good time of the year to be out and about. Thoroughly enjoyable to be out in the woodland. I find it quite relaxing myself. In this location, some of the rules that were laid down for us to shoot the area was we weren't allowed to screw into the trees. So we've used straps and props when necessary. It's not a problem. We'll work around what the owners want us to do. We'll only target certain animals so long as they're legal. Don't be asking us to do illegal things. Here we go. There's a good solid headshot on some invasive animals. Just about make it out there. There's a trouble with ground vegetation, but the shot looked good. Here comes squirrel 3. Seems to bypass the ones on the floor. Get a better look at the targets he's been using. Quite useful little ones. Stick them to the wood. Shoot away at those bits of wood all you like. I'm not sure what happens here, so I run out of footage in a second and he has to restart the camera. I'm guessing he's tried to move it and thumbed the off button. So he's turned it back on again. It's exactly the same squirrel. Happens to the best of us. Good sight on headshot for squirrel 3. Typical twitching. Check the link in the description to Ted's video explaining why, if you don't already know. Rev likes to shoot from his car quite often. Very often forms part of the setup he chooses for the location of a feeder, as if he can get his car there. Some places you can't, but most of the places you can. That'll do, Mr. Squirrel. And number 4 hits the deck. Just about make out the tail there. You can tell by the reaction. You can see a squirrel just zip up the left hand side of the tree there. Just about make out the tail. No, the head, sorry. Can't quite see on this little bit of a screen I've got. But it's definitely bobbing around behind the back of that feeder. Sometimes all you got to do is wait. It can be a painful process sometimes. I haven't bothered to speed it up in this video. You see the squirrel comes back down a tree and disappears off into the undergrowth. And Bros had to restart the camera, stop the camera. Nothing was going on. You saw the squirrel coming back up. It's a good few minutes difference. Wasn't sure if it had gone away because he couldn't see it because of the vegetation. It's up on top of the feeder now. And again, when they mess about like that, the temptation is to shoot them when they present a stationary target. You've probably seen in my last video entitled Help, I actually did a body shot with a sub 12 foot-pound rifle. Not that I don't think body shots will work, just in this type of shooting, when they're sat still feeding, the head is an easily identifiable target to take an aim at. It should be UK 5p accurate at this range, and about 15 yards. There's absolutely no reason to push it back any further. Very often, the topography of a lot of places you're shooting, you won't get more than 15 yards before you have trees in the way and all sorts. You set them all the same distance, you should have the same zero. And we tend to zero for the feeders at exactly 15 yards. No point in going any further. I'll sometimes use my FAC if there's a chance of a shot further away. But here we go, this one's come in just as we expected it to. It's doing the right thing. There we go. A good solid headshot for number 5 there. Typical movement. It's all over for Mr. Squirrel. Or Mrs. Squirrel. Doesn't really matter which. You can see the tail flicking the squirrel to the left hand side of the feeder there. Another one behind the back. I'd be doing something about that. We don't care if we shoot males or females. The more the merrier. The remit here is to remove as many of these squirrels as possible. I'm not sure if that's the same squirrels come up or down the tree. When you turn the camera off, sometimes when you see them, it takes a bit of time to wake the camera back up again. This one's probably eyeballing the ones on the ground. We tempted to screw some logs on the back of that feeder to make it difficult for them to get in that nook at the back. They don't all sit there. Bus tracking this squirrel the whole time, looking for an obvious shot. It's much better if they're feeding. It's one of those dark art things. You've done it often enough. You get to see the sort of things that will prompt you to take a shot. Absolutely no rush. Shooting it quicker won't get you anything except a more likelihood of a wounded squirrel. Sometimes get a second shot opportunity, or they're needed to have a second shot. But it's rare with this methodology you get a wounded squirrel. One that gets away, a good headshot, they don't tend to go far. Bruv usually likes to shoot them quartering towards him. That's one of the better shots you can do on a squirrel. The diagonal pellet path across the brain. I like that shot on a straight on headshot. And third of all, a side on. There we go, another quartering shot available. And that's the result. Those Hunter Extremes do hit hard, seem to do a lot of damage, but again, you really need to make sure your pellets are accurate before they do the damage you hope they do. If that makes any sense. Accuracy, accuracy and accuracy. But after that, if you've got a pellet there's a little bit more damage than another one, I'd go with that. Without fail, every time I've done a necropsy on a squirrel that's been shot with those pellets, the skulls are absolutely shattered. They just punch nice little holes in them. It cracks all across the skull. The squirrel's head's very, very flimsy. Same as their rib cages. The rib cages are so soft and the bone's so weak it's like cutting through those mesh bags you get around satsumas. So no resistance there, but lots of damage from a good pellet. Kills them instantly. Just like that. You know when the pellet's struck and done a good job. You see the reaction of the body. Here's when it's got on the feeder, without Bruv seeing it, I'm guessing. He's been chatting away on his phone. Shocking to say that we all do the same thing. Your mind wanders a bit, whereas you used to stare at the feeder years ago. If you had a good 4G connection, you end up on social media or chatting away with your mates via text, telling them what you got up to. Sometimes quite handy, especially if you're in a group shoot, which I do have some footage of. Coming up down the line on the Squirrel Hill series, all four of us go out together. That's a story for another day. Hoping I might be able to make that video for Christmas. If not, it'll be the new year. This one's that side on. I'd be aiming between the eye and the ear and favour the front edge of the ear. There we go, sat nice and still. Number 8 hits the deck. Sometimes the nervous reaction is quite violent. A lot more suspect of ones that don't move. Another one's romped in on this pleasant May sunny day. I've just set his camera up. You can see the pellet marks below on the leg. This one keeps dipping his head in. There we go. That's number 9. Bruv's just checking it out on the ground. Looks like the damage has been done. Yeah, another one that's got to the feeder before Bruv's managed to get his camera on. Sometimes it happens that way. There's a lot of foliage, a lot of plant matter. A lot of them come across the ground here. It's difficult to see them. Well, that's double figure bag for Bruv. Always a good day when you can bang 10 out. And he's not finished yet. I think he's left this one quite a while. Tried to assemble these videos in the series in chronological order. To check by the dates. Very nearly made the mistake of putting this one after the next one. Got them in the wrong order almost. I spotted my error. I'll have a look at the ones on the ground. Seems to have spotted Bruv moving. That's fine though. It's even better when they go on alert like that. It's a natural reaction. Very often gets them killed, especially when they've been spotted. That'll do. Number 11, switched off, dropped on the ground. And the squirrel under the feeder there moving about. It looks like I told you a lie when I said I didn't speed any of this video up. This one messed about far too much. And again, goes around the back of that feeder. That would annoy me greatly, that would. He ends up turning the camera off and having to turn it back on again a little bit later. As the squirrel finally makes it to the top of the feeder. Same squirrel. Just hung around the back of that feeder for quite a while. And a good sniff. Like a dog in the park. Seeing what all the other dogs have been up to. And this one's checking out the squirrel newspaper. Who's been round. It's sat nice and still. Number 12, it's a deck. There we go. Loads of blood coming out the nose. Lots of head damage. Pretty soon the spinal neurons will stop firing. The body will shut down. This one's coming stuck straight to the leg. Could be in trouble if it sits there though. Nice and still. He's whacked that one. Squirrel 13. Looked like it tried to run away there, but that's not the case. Back legs were kicking and it just happened to have them pointing against the dirt. Just about make it the tail, I think it is there. He couldn't see it properly. He was calling time on his session anyway, so he gets out the car, goes to check it out, and there you see 13 squirrels on the Mark IV. Cracking day out, unlucky for some 13. Grant's out on his session now, with caliber cricket, launching 177 polymags, short variety. Grant's rocked up only a few days after Brev's session. See how his feeder does. Another big feeder, strapped to the tree, with props under the legs. You see the squirrels coming from the right down the tree. Another nice sunny day, benefiting from the time of year. That one's looking at Grant's hide, I think. It's still feeding. Keeps sitting back up into a position where it's virtually a straight on headshot. It's almost a quartering shot there. Either will do. Much prefer them to set themselves up for an optimum shot. Grant's just taking his time, waiting to see the pattern that the squirrel's taking. No rush. Here we go. Good solid impact. Polymags look a bit gimmicky, but they do a lot of damage. Grant doesn't bother to film to the ground, he's too busy looking at it through the air rifle scope. Pronounce it's dead that way. No second shot needed. That's squirrel 1. This looks like a youngster coming to the left hand side of the tree. Again, it's a lot of vegetation about this time of year. That's the beauty of these feeders. They're being shot because they're an invasive species. Cause a lot of damage. And it's not supposed to be fair. This is purely pest control. That's why they're being shot. No other reason. Any other reason off the back of that is purely an advantageous one. Primary reason is they're pests. and do a lot of damage. This, of course, being the UK, we have no bag limits, no seasons for shooting squirrels. We can shoot them all year long, and as many as you like. And that's precisely why we got permission to shoot on this lovely bit of woodland. And Grant's looking at this one now. He's happy it's into a feeding pattern. And there was a pheasant on the ground. Didn't seem too spooked though, did it? Probably more worried by Squirrel 2 dropping onto the ground, roughly where it was. Such a pretty bird, and so stupid as well. That's Squirrel 2 for Grant. Here comes Squirrel 3. As per usual, there's a few bodies on the floor. I'll go and have a check out. Didn't seem too perturbed though. Most of the time they'll make their way to the feeder, to the hopper. Something spooked it. I'm not sure if it's Grant moving in the hide. Doesn't sound like he's making a lot of noise. Maybe it's a bit of movement. It's the one thing when they're sat in a feeding position, they don't tend to move their head that much. This one's frozen on the side of the tree. Grant's tracking it. Can hear another squirrel squawking in the background. Here we go. Grant took it off the side of the tree. Nicely done there, Grant. Pretty much standard kicking about on the ground. When you can hear other squirrels squawking about in the branches. Gives you a lot of confidence in sitting still and waiting. You know they're in the area. You've got one on the side of the tree, yet again. This one's decided to take a tour in the back. I left these bits of footage in just to show you just how annoying it can be. You've got to wait for them to reappear, which it has done. It's on the left hand side of the tree, just disappeared around the back again. Again, Grant has to turn the camera off. Just wait for it to turn back up, which it duly does on the right hand side of the tree. Just got to wait for the belly to rumble. It didn't come here for fun. You know full well it came here for some breakfast. Unless you do something silly like take a hasty shot, they probably are going to come in and have their food. Now it's in a feeding pattern. Grant's waited this long, just waiting for those dips. Keep the crosshairs on its head. Don't move them when it dips down. You can count the seconds virtually. It's been extra careful, I think, just to make sure it's going to sit still. It's in the right rhythm now. Here we go. Absolutely no advantage in shooting that any sooner. Done a brilliant job of the shot in the end. When they start jittering around a bit, sometimes it pays just to make sure they've calmed down to the point where they're feeding. Checking it on the floor. All's good. Camera's back on again. Another squirrel's come in. Right on the feeder already. Sometimes difficult if they run straight in. Sometimes they'll bowl in, like a bud in a china shop, straight up to feed, irrespective of how many other dead squirrels are on the ground. Grant zoomed in a bit there. Grant's using his hide because he can't get his car up the hill. It's quite a way up the hill from where we are. Said he liked hill climbing, so we gave him the one at the top of the hill. Been a bit of a slow burn this one. Once they know this feed's here, they'll start to draw them in. I'm just checking it's going to sit still. There we go. Not the sort of reaction I expected to see. He's checking it on the ground. It's having a kick about. There's no need for a second shot. There's a squirrel on the top of the feeder. I'm guessing that probably come down the tree. Some of them come across the trees. A lot of them come across the ground. If you think about it, that's where they bury their food. Do spend an awful lot of time on the ground in the woodland. A lot more than people expect. You've only got to go in a local park and watch them. They can move quite quickly as well. As I found out, spooking a few with my shotgun. Thing is, they don't move quicker than a shotgun shell. There we go though. That's the beauty of an air rifle. Very little disturbance, very precise shooting. 100% recognising the target as being one that needs to be shot. No mistakes, plenty of time. And surgically administered pellet to the brain. There we go. If he took that feeder down, packed up the hide, you would never know he'd been there. Nicely done there, Grant. Bit of a slow burn on this feeder for this year. First year at Squirrel Hill. Grant's got a couple of feeders at the top now. This good lady will probably be shooting it next year, so we might have some footage from her, maybe. Just gone into air rifling through Grant, teaching her how to do it. Don't let it be said there's no diversity on this Squirrel Hunter channel. So yeah, now that's going to play up. Some of them just like to have a good sniff about, I think. If you can't muster any patience, this is probably not the thing for you to do. We all honed our patience sitting there on the riverbank fishing years gone by when we were kids. No different. Waiting for the optimum moment to take a shot or to strike on a fish. But here we go. That one just proved too tempting. Grant's in the groove now. Whacking the squirrels down. A lot of places we go. Half a dozen's a good bag. This place just seems to be hopping with them. And if I've been counting correctly, this is squirrel 8 coming in. Not the 13 that Bruv had. trots down the right hand side of the tree. We'd look at a few corpses on the ground. The feeder I've been shooting has been quite consistent with 10s and 9s, but I've been stealing them off Bro, I think. I have actually moved Bro to my location so we can draw all the squirrels in that area. And I've shifted mine back to roughly where I was at the beginning of the Squirrel Hill series. But I've gone up the hill a bit to another location, so time will tell how that pans out, whether I'll actually get any decent amounts of squirrels there. This is number 8 for Grant. Side of the tree again, he's lining up on it. Another good shot, well done Grant. 8 on the deck. He decides to wrap it up for the day. Nicely done there, fellas. 13 for Bruv and 8 for Grant. That's Grant's hide, the same ones that we all use. And there we go, 8 squirrels and the caliber gun cricket. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, subscribe and share. Thank you.